Time we take a stand against child abuse and negligence. The next 2 days will see the Africa Child Trauma Conference taking place, where an emergency action plan for child protection will be drafted. Well, it's hoped that the plan will be relevant to Africa and further allow for real action. So to tell us more, we're joined by Edith Kriel, Executive Director at Jelly Beanz. Thank you so much for your time, Edith, and welcome to the South African Morning. I mean, I hate to ask this question, but I have to. Given the research or the assessment that you have done, the analysis, is Africa really turning a blind eye when it comes to child abuse, child trauma, including negligence?
I think that, yes, I really do. I think that children are not on the top of the priority list in terms of Africa, particularly, if we have a look pre-COVID, the situation was already dire. Now, with the lockdowns, the deprivation and the abuse and the violence that our children are exposed to, we really are in a very, very difficult space. And if we don't begin to take real action and change things on the ground for children, we are going to have a generation of traumatized children.
Let's break it down a bit deeper here and get more specific, because when we look at the South African context alone, as we're speaking, I'm reminded of, 3 young innocent children in Orange Farm, 2 friends aged between 8 and 7 who were found dead in a veld, naked, another 7-year-old boy found dead in a fridge. This is just South Africa in terms of what we're seeing, but how are we looking in terms of the rest of the continent when we say there is negligence, there is child abuse within the continent?
Well, I think, we know that South Africa is one of the most violent countries in the world. But I think if we have a look in broader Africa, the other kinds of difficulties that they also struggle with, other than the ones I've already mentioned in terms of hunger and deprivation, and abuse, are also looking at child soldiers, at looking at child brides, genital mutilation. So there's some things that we may not be struggling with so much, but is happening in the rest of Africa. But our continent is in trouble.
And you're saying that we need to have a conversation about it, Edith. You're saying with this conference we need to talk about it, but also come up with an emergency action plan that needs to be prioritized in terms of implementation. Take me through that.
So I think the purpose of the conference is twofold. We have people joining us for the conference where we are looking at empowering and skill building for practitioners who work on the ground with children. So that is the one focus for the conference. The outcome of the conference is this emergency action plan. And that is about, sharing with the various government organizations, the various civil societies, and then asking people to commit to this and holding them accountable to what they have committed to.
And just for clarity's sake, for anyone interested in obviously, watching the conference, it's happening today as well as tomorrow. It's called the Africa Child Trauma Conference. Edith, who have you partnered with when it comes to, this conference?
We are very privileged to have partnered with UNICEF South Africa, with ECPAT International, and with the Teddy Bear Foundation.
All right, and before I just let you go then, what are you hoping to be some of the outcomes of, this particular conference, especially when it comes to implementation? Because children, by virtue of them being vulnerable, being young, also being impressionable, we can't let this abuse, this negligence go even a day on.
We can't. And you can see behind me a whole lot of rainbows that children have coloured in for us and drawn for us. That is my hope for this conference, is that we leave here with our practitioners on the ground being reinvigorated and having a sense of hope. And that with the emergency action plan, we also have a sense of hope in terms of on policy level, to really look at changing things. We need to act now. Words no longer are enough.
Well, Edith Kriel, Executive Director at Jelly Beanz, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.